Dr. Evan Chait, Kinetic Rehab and Spine. Welcome to our channel. Click the link below to subscribe, share, and like our videos. Join today, join the movement, gain access to insiders' education on how you become a better you. Welcome to your destination of health and wellness. All the best. Sempre Avante. Always forward.
How are you?
You're doing great, man. Thank you so much for being part of this interview process. You know, I've known you for almost 20 years now in my local community, and I was jealous of you back in the day. Like because your name was everywhere, and you got such great results with working with athletes from the high school level to grade school to Olympic to professional athletes, and I was just like, how is this guy so good? You know, and I started studying your materials. Probably your first video course was maybe 16 years ago that I picked up. And I started studying materials, and you transcended, I think, sports fitness and athletic performance and sports psychology. And I wanted to get you on this call because you're just a unique man. I mean, how you think and how you empower people, especially children, to be better than they've ever been.
Yeah.
I wanted them to know your history, how you became who you are, and then your licenses, and just tell us where you started. How'd you get involved in this?
Sure. No, great question. And thank you, Evan. I've admired your work for so long now, as mutually over the last 20 years, and the results you get with your patients and your athletes and getting them back on the field has been, remarkable. So it's great to be here. It's great to be, part of this and work with you, obviously. And so, my background, I grew up in Little Ferry, went to Richfield Park High School here in Bergen County. I was an undersized athlete, played football, went out for track, and, the coach said, try all the events in track, tried the javelin, took a liking to it, continued my career in football at Richfield Park and track and field. We went on, I was the captain of the team. We went to the state finals in football when I was, back then, but the javelin was something that was, that took me to another level. So I was pretty good at it. I went to some camps, and I wound up going to college on a partial javelin scholarship, believe it or not. And
Wow.
that's where it all started. It really, the training stuff started for me in high school. But then when I got to college, I went to Iona College in New Rochelle, small Irish Catholic school. And the coach there, the track coach, was a big time field events coach. His name is Tony Niclario. He's actually from Morristown. And I really started learning a lot of these different techniques from Coach Niclario. But then I went on this quest because when I was a senior in high school, I got invited to a national meet that the top two place finishers qualify for the U.S. Junior Olympic team. And I was in second place up until the last thrower.
Oh.
Yeah, and then the last thrower came. He beat me by 2 inches. I was crushed.
Oh.
And that's when I said to myself, I'm never going to let this happen again. I'm never going to have this feeling. I'm going to exhaust every opportunity of training. And I was only 18 at the time. So I went to Iona because of Coach Niclario. I wanted to major in phys ed. I thought I wanted to be a phys ed teacher. They didn't have phys ed. They didn't have any exercise science department. I majored in finance. So I just went there solely for athletics. So Coach Niclario exposed me to a lot of different training methodologies. And, it's a Division I track program. So we competed on all the big meets, big circuits, met a lot of people. And then my sophomore year, I met a thrower, an exchange student from Finland. And the Finns have the best, throwers in the world. They've had the best throwers in the world for a long time. So I actually put a fundraiser together. I went to Finland for a summer in 1989 and trained there. And that's when things really started to change for me, because they're training. The gyms in Finland in the 1980s were, med balls, physio balls, kettlebells. They were doing all the functional stuff in the 80s, where every gym in the US was kind of like a Planet Fitness today. It was just a sea of cardio equipment, a sea of selectorized equipment. Every gym was like that. There were no functional gyms. So I said to myself, when I went to Finland, I learned all these medicine ball drills where I don't even think anybody kind of knew what a medicine ball was back in the 80s. Like they weren't in the gym.
Agreed.
Yeah, so I started doing, the protocol was to do 10,000 reps over the course of a winter. So I started doing a lot of these training methodologies, because to really be good in the javelin throw, for a 5 foot, first of all, my prototype, a 5'10" Italian isn't supposed to throw the javelin really far, right? They're typically 6'5" Norwegians, Finns, Germans, Swedes, they're usually big, long guys that are just really, powerful. And for me to throw the javelin really far, I needed to do a couple things. I needed to run really fast down that runway. So imagine running, you have about a 35-yard distance to run as fast as you can with a 7-foot spear in your hand. And all of a sudden, you're at about 80, 90% intensity of your sprint. You got to stop on a dime. So you need speed, you need strength, you need core strength, flexibility. The javelin throw really is the essence, I like to say, the overhand throwing motions is the essence of athletic performance, because you're transferring weight and power from one leg to the other, coming through the torso, no different than a baseball swing, a quarterback throw, a baseball pitch. It's all very similar, right? The ability to transfer force quickly, rate of force development, through the ground, through your body, into your hand. So that is the essence of sports. So I started studying that big time. So medicine balls was one of the training modalities we did, different forms of plyos, kettlebells, all these different training modalities I was doing in the 80s. And wow. So I went on to become a Division I All-American in the javelin for 2 years. I went to the Olympic trials. So I competed at a fairly high level, competed in Europe that summer when I was in Finland.
So how much did you improve between that year that you took on kettlebell training and physio ball?
Yeah, about 25 feet. I went up
massive.
I was like, 210 thrower, and I peaked out at about 237, but I had a bunch of meets at 230, with the college javelin, which gets you to the NCAA finals, top 8, Division I. So wow. I had 2 years in a row, I threw 230 at the NCAAs, and, was on All-American, and, that was a big accomplishment to throw it, University of Oregon in front of, 25,000 fans. That was and then I went to the Olympic trials in 1988 and competed, with the same meet as Carl Lewis. I was kind of, that was my.
That's incredible.
Yeah. For like a North Jersey guy that's a football guy that figured out the javelin, but it was all training. I mean, my success was all about the training. So, I lived it myself. But really how I got started in this thing is, I've been on this quest for knowledge ever since I was in, high school, senior year. And I've gone to, I went to Finland. I put a fundraiser together, go to Finland to train with the best athletes in the world, because that year I went in 1989. In 1988, Tapios Kuros won the gold medal in the javelin throw from Finland. Wow. I actually had the opportunity to train and compete with him that summer and understand all their training methodologies. And back in the 80s, the Finns were the leaders in functional training. I mean, they put out a lot of the research. Kolmi put out a book called Strength and Power in Sport. So they really led the way. And, I came back here and I continued to go to seminars. I continued to attend events. And in 1989, that summer, I think it was, or a couple months later, the head strength coach of the New York Giants at that time was Johnny Parker. He hosted a seminar here in New Jersey, and he had this guy by the name of Angel Spazov, who was the head Olympic lifting coach for the Bulgarians. Now, back in the 80s, the Bulgarians were, they won all the Olympic medals in the Olympic lifts, the snatch, the clean, the jerk. They were phenomenal. So the Giants brought this guy in because they were big Olympic lifters. Johnny believed in the Olympic lifts. So while he was here, he ran a clinic, he ran a event, and he opened it up to local strength and conditioning coaches. I was a college athlete at the time. I went to the clinic. I went to this to learn, right? I was learning. I was my own coach in a lot of ways in terms of my strength and conditioning and whatnot. So I sat in the front, and at lunch, I said, can I go to lunch with you guys? So I'm 20 years old. I asked Johnny Parker, head strength coach of the Giants, and Angel Spazov, head Bulgarian strength coach, like two really world-renowned guys. I go to lunch with them, and we start talking, and I just got done with an All-American season. I got back from Finland and all this stuff going on, and I was talking about med balls. So Johnny was pretty impressed. He's like, man, I want you to come down to Giant Stadium and show Phil Simms those medicine ball drills. So Phil, 2 years before that, Phil Simms won the Super Bowl MVP. So he was still on the Giants. He was, the New York Giants quarterback. They just won the Super Bowl. So I go down to Giant Stadium, I meet Phil Simms, and I start training Phil Simms. And that's, I said, wow, this is kind of cool. And, maybe I can do this for a living. So in some ways, Phil was kind of like my first client, and started showing him these training techniques I learned in Finland. I was still a college student at the time. I was
a kid.
Yeah, I was 20 years old. I was an All-American, and I had a lot of respect from Johnny. I came back from Finland. I was using these cutting-edge techniques, and so that really was the start. So I went on, finished my college career, but after that, what was interesting, I wasn't done. I had a friend of mine that was an NCAA champion, went to a number of Olympics. He was at Gainesville. He went to the University of Florida. I moved to Gainesville for a year just to live and train with him, and then got a graduate assistantship for the Gators. I was the head strength coach for their track team. We had 2 Olympians on the team, and I helped out with football team. That was Steve Spurrier's first year. That was his first year. And I was down there for a year, and that's where I took anatomy. I took some classes, and I was a GA, and gained some experience as a strength coach right after college, and then moved back home that following year. And that's when I started the business out of a $500 van, living at home in Little.
What year was that?
That was 1991.
Yeah.
The fall of 91. I was in Florida in 1991, that school academic year, and then started in the fall of 91, driving around in a van. But I had my college career underneath me. I worked with the Giants a little bit. I worked at the University of Florida. I had a lot of experience. And then, when I first started the business, the program, all I had was a van, and I was living at home, and I was giving free clinics. And I remember I did a big mass mailing, like 5,000 mailers to coaches. And I was going to give this, I provide this free clinic, this educational opportunity on how to improve speed. And, I had a pretty good resume, right? I was a 2-time All-American, Olympic trials qualifier, trained, Phil Simms, New York Giants, University of Florida, strength coach. I had pretty good, resume. And I had one coach show up to the class. one coach, came, because no one thought, you can improve speed. They thought, this is not, true. You can't improve speed. And, it took me a couple of years to kind of have some of the successes, in teaching speed and helping athletes improve. And then, got some good success, and then business started to grow. And then, living at home, I lived at home until I was 26, because all the money went into the business, and opened up our first location in Wyckoff in 1993, about 2 years later. And then that's where it all started, right from there. But it was all built around improving performance, specifically speed. But to improve speed, you got to get stronger. You got to get more flexible. You got to have core strength. You got to have all the attributes to be a great athlete. So speed is, obviously one of the outcomes that we get from training this way. But it really started, to answer your question, it started with my own athletic training as a javelin thrower. And I think the essence of skill is the ability to, generate force quickly, or we call that the rate of force development. That is the holy grail in performance, right? How fast you can generate force. For a martial artist, he's trying to, break a piece of wood, or, through a punch, right? And how do they improve force development? Whether there's certain techniques, there's bracing techniques, there's body positions. I mean, you're a martial artist. And in sport, it's the same thing, whether it be throwing a baseball, throwing a football, swinging a golf club, swinging a baseball bat, or putting force into the ground to get the body to move faster. They're all similar, and it all comes down to rate of force development. It all comes down to transferring force and weight from one limb to the other, and doing that in a sequential way that allows that force transformation to be done quickly.
I love that.
Yeah.
I love it. And at each one of your facilities, now you have how many licensed facilities?
Yeah, we have now close to 100 facilities, north of 90. So, it's been a great ride, but that's really how we started.
And in your 100 facilities, you have technology that actually could assess the rate of force production, don't you?
Yes, we have the Sparta platform, which was invented by a guy. His name is Phil Wagner, and here's a strength coach that really wanted to do a deep dive in understanding rate of force development and what it means, and how to truly measure it, and how to understand injury resiliency or injury risk. So this dude, he went and got his MD to become a better strength coach. He's the only guy I know on the planet that went and got an MD to become a better strength coach. And along with that designation as a licensed MD, he doesn't practice medicine, but he has it to be able to do more validated research. He's put all that effort and time into developing a software technology called Sparta Science, where it's a force platform, which is an oversized scale for, just for lack of better words, and so people can understand it. But you jump on it, and it measures your rate of force development, but it also in the 3 dimensions measures how you produce force, the quality of force, and the ability to generate force on the way down in the jump, and then obviously on the way up. Because when you jump really high, you go down really fast and reverse that motion and come up really fast. So there's measurements and in that ability and how well you do all those phases of the jump. And then he has identified through research and through machine learning software, and this company's in Palo Alto, California, with some of the best programmers. They've identified risk of injury and deficiencies athletes have in terms of different muscle groups or strength deficiency. So we have that in our Fairlawn location. We use that, and it's helped us understand how to better prescribe our programming.
Gotcha. And so based on that data, you could actually create corrective exercises for those athletes.
Yes. Yeah. We understand if there's typically when you look at an athlete and we're looking at how well they can generate the rate of force development. Again, that's what it comes down to. Lots of force really quickly. That's a punch. And when we sprint, it's like you're punching the ground with your feet. It's really knowing how to generate force. That machine, that technology assesses force in 3 dimensions. So meaning it assesses how fast and how strong you go down, how well you can reverse that movement because you go down and back up, and then how well you express force through the whole range of motion. And it can tell us if we're weak in the anterior chain, the posterior chain, or the core, where that deficiency is in those 3 areas of your body, right? So anterior chain strength, your quads, that would maybe a deficiency, or your posterior chain strength, your glutes, your hamstrings, or your core, anything in your core, your erectors, your ab muscles. And typically, when there's a deficiency, there's an imbalance in strength and or recruitment abilities in those 3 areas. And that deficiency is shown to be an injury risk. And the goal is to balance those 3 areas. And this technology allows us to do that.
I want to go into your myofascial training because I think you're probably the world's leading authority, most likely on myofascial conditioning or myofascial science, right? But before I go there, I want to unpack your history because we're dealing with a society of children that have difficulty with resiliency. The amount of stress that children are under is exceptional compared to what you and we were under when we were growing up, right? There's a lot of factors and a lot of possible theories of why children are under a lot more stress right now than they were when we were growing up. But if we unpack your story, I mean, it's phenomenal. Like, it's not how many times you get knocked down, it's right. It's how many times you get back up. And you never gave up. Like you saw that you got frustrated because you didn't achieve the goal you want to get. So you traveled halfway across the world in order for you to gain access to technology that America did not have.
Yeah.
What's some advice that you would give a young athlete now? And they might not go to Division I, or they might not go play NFL, but the importance of athletics on brain development, right? And myofascial development, and just subconscious programming of social communication with teammates. What would you advise to some athletes now to improve their ability to adapt?
Yeah, no, great question. And the one thing I've been and continue to be is I'm on this quest, and I've always been on a quest. I continue to be on the quest, and the quest continues for knowledge, for motivation, and that quest gets fulfilled by meeting different people. Someone like yourself who's advanced in understanding injury and the origin of injury, and your acupuncture expertise and all the protocols you bring to that. I'm the same way with enhancing performance. So I have a network of professionals I've created relationships with. One of the turning points in my life, and one of the reasons why I started this quest, is I met a gentleman. His name is Dr. Rob Gilbert, a sports psychologist out of Montclair State. I've known him since I was 18. He's become a dear friend of mine. And when you talk about inspiring, when you talk about mindset, Dr. Gilbert has helped me when I was a young athlete, and he continues to help me as an advisor to my organization. And one of the key things he taught me early on is, and I share this advice with any athlete, any coach, any individual. You can do anything anybody else can do if you learn the right strategies and take consistent action. Now, think about that for a second. So this has been my metaphor my entire life. I went to Finland because they were the best in the world. So if you want to be the best in the world, find out who the best in the world is and model them, right? So I think, when you think through your goals in life, whether you're a young athlete, your goal is to play at the high school level, the college level, maybe you have a dream to play at the professional level, whatever that goal is, one, you got to really buy into it. Now, my goal, when I was in college, high school, my goal, I set a high goal. I wanted to break the world record. Like that's the highest goal you can set, right? In the javelin. Now, it was a long shot, but that motivated me. And I did everything I could. I went to Finland. I went to seminars. I was like, I didn't drink in college. I didn't party. I mean, I was like laser. People thought I was nuts. I mean, laser. And I gave up a lot of good times. And guess what? I didn't come close to breaking the world record. But here's the deal. I went so much further than I wouldn't have if I didn't have those goals. Like that goal motivated me. I'm not saying everyone should set a goal to break the world record or make the NFL. Find something that motivates you. That motivated me. And I really believed I had the ability to do it. Now, I didn't do it. I didn't even come close. I was, 40 feet shy, or so. But I did believe in it, and it got me to a certain level. So you got to find a goal. And if you find that goal and you go on this quest to learn the best strategies and model the best people in the world and take consistent action, I guarantee you're going to reach your potential as an athlete. I reached my potential. I believe I reached my potential as an athlete. And you know what? I don't have any regrets. So that goal might be, I want to be a great high school athlete. I'm not interested in college. I just want to max out. Great. If that's what gets you fired up to take consistent action, to do the things you need to do, eat right, stay healthy, get good sleep, all those little things, whatever that goal is to stay motivated, you got to feed yourself the positive energy. You got to feed yourself the strategies, like learning new strategies. We're swimming in a sea of strategies. YouTube has millions of strategies, right? I mean, you can get access to learn anything at a super high level. If you just have the motivation and believe in the fact that you can do anything anybody else can do, if you learn the right strategies and take consistent action, you're gonna max out your potential. And that's my advice to people. Here's where people break down. They don't spend the time to learn the best strategies, and/or they don't take consistent action, right? So, the old joke is there's three frogs on the rock in the pond. One frog jumps off. How many frogs are left on the rock on the pond? People would say, well, why? I should say one frog decides to jump off. How many frogs are left on the rock? People say two. No, there's three. Just because the frog decided doesn't mean he did it, right? So there's a difference between deciding and getting the information and actually doing it consistently. That's what most people, the same thing with weight loss, right? It's consistent action.
I think that's so important because resiliency is very difficult now. In like my daughter, it's all about teaching her how to stay consistent, take consistent action on a daily basis. Okay, baby, you want to do this? Okay, that's your goal. All right, let's find the strategy to get you there, and then let's practice every day to get you there, right? And with her, she might max out eventually in her athletic performance, but it's who she becomes along that way.
That's right.
Who you became as a man, never mind the goal, but it's who you became as a man. It's not the destination, it's who you become along the way. And I think that's why you're such a huge inspiration, and not only to me, but I think to thousands and thousands of athletes that you worked with, and you continue to empower people and inspire them to want to be better than themselves.
Yeah. No, thank you for that. And really what it is, athletics is a great metaphor for life. And athletics has allowed me to develop, certain habits in life and certain, work ethics. And that's what athletics is all about. It's training, right? Because there's a lot of setbacks in athletics. And a setback is an opportunity for a comeback. We're all set back with this economic and social and and medical challenge that we're facing in our country today. Like we have three massive challenges, right? We have a social challenge, we have a medical challenge, we have an economic challenge. I mean, this is the trifecta that no one would ever have bet on, that this would happen all at one time. So this is a major setback, but it's an opportunity for a massive comeback to get better in all these areas, to become healthier, to become more inclusive of all races, and treat everyone with respect and the respect everyone deserves. No matter what your color, your skin is, everyone deserves the same respect. So, it's important that athletics is training for life. It's really preparing you for life. And I feel like you said, it helps create habits, it's paradigm shifting, and you bring those areas. I brought my whole javelin training experience to my business, to my life, to, collaboration. I'm a big collaborator, inclusive. And that's what's, kind of cool about track and field. You collaborate, you help each other succeed, to throw further. And it was just a great experience. And I continue to follow that same paradigm.
Well, I'm so happy to be part of your inner circle. And you were tell us about your Fascia Academy real quick.
Yeah.
Where can they find, if the audience, where can they find more information? How'd you get involved in the fascial process, fascial system? Tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah. So, the research around sports science is interesting. I mean, there's so much, I believe there's so much there's a lot more we don't know about the body than we do know, right? I still think there's so many new discoveries taking place. And, a lot of people over the years, when I was growing up, and even now, you talk to moms, dads, and coaches, it's good for athletes to play 3 sports, they don't develop overuse injuries, and it's good to do a lot of different things. And, the question is why? Why scientifically, why is that the case? And a lot of these questions always kind of popped up, and I would really want to understand and answer them. And I came across some research. I started reading about the fascia system, the connective tissue system. So fascia, for the audience, it's considered a newly discovered organ in the body, and I'll explain why in a second. But it's the internal connective tissue of the body, where for the last 500 years or so, doctors, scientists, researchers thought it was just basically like packing material in the body, just to hold stuff in place, and didn't have a lot of use except to kind of take up space and kind of help hold organs in place. Recently, over the last 20 to 25 years, they've identified that this is a lot more than just packing material. Like, you open up an Amazon box and there's, those little styrofoams or blow up bags. It's a lot more than that. It actually has 10 times more the proprioceptors and nerve endings than muscle. It's considered now a sensory organ in the body. And it's a system that's adaptable and trainable and responds to stress or the lack of stress, and is highly trainable. And when we talk about improving performance, or, doing a lot of different activities such as cross training or playing multiple sports, it's to develop your fascia system and your fascia web. So it's basically cellophane wrapping that goes throughout every, muscle, and between muscles, around muscle cells, groups of muscles, around organs. It gives our organs its stability. It holds cells in place. It does so much, and it's still brand new. I mean, it's only 10 or 20 years old where people have made these discoveries. So surgeons now are realizing that when they perform surgery, how to, manage the fascia during surgery. Now, all of a sudden, when we have surgery, what do? Immediately, you don't get in a cast. You're not in a cast. You don't become immobilized. Where 20 years ago, which is not a long time ago, used to immobilize. And guess what? We found out it's horrible. You know why? Because the fascia buildup that would take place by being immobilized would be a fascia collagen matrix that is like felt, that gets really stuck and locked down and inhibits range of motion, and really can ruin your athletic career or ruin your mobility. Now we need to, and it's all fascia related. So all these new discoveries, while you move around, it's to manage the fascia development, where we want the fascia not to lock us down, but to develop in a way where it's more of a lattice type fascia, where it's springy and young. That's why young kids, if a young child falls down the stairs, God forbid, the odds are they're not going to get as hurt compared to grandma falling down the stairs, because their fascia web is more pliable, they're more bouncy, they're more resilient. Old age and lack of hydration causes the fascia to lock up and mat down, where that is avoidable, more so than we thought. So the research around this is something I've dove into the last number of years, wrote a book. We started the Fascia Training Academy.com, fasciatrainingacademy.com, where it's research-based. And I've been fortunate enough to be elected to the board of directors of the Fascia Research Society, which, are the top researchers and doctors in the world that put out this information. So this wasn't too well known in sports. I was fortunate enough to present to 90 NFL strength coaches at the NFL Combine in 2019 and presented almost 2 hours on the fascia system and what it is and how it works. And, the guys really were impressed, because this is a system that gets trained. Like when you do medicine ball training and you do different types of full body movement training, you're addressing the fascia connective tissue system.
That's fascinating. It's interesting. I was reading an article last night and I was thinking about you. The fascia has photoreceptors.
Yep.
So it actually transmits photons or light through the foot. So I could have a light therapy device, like an infrared light or far infrared light, in my foot, and it'll illuminate the whole entire body via the signaling messengers from the photoreceptors in the fascia. Yeah. So it's fascinating. And now, if somebody wanted to learn more about how to do your trainings or your programs, your education, your facilities, if they want to excel and improve their athletic abilities, reduce their risk of injury, if they're a clinician or a trainer that wants to learn more about the fascial system, where should people go to gather information?
Yep. I mean, I have a couple different websites. So the first one is parisischool.com. We have a mentorship program for coaches that we bring them on board. It's a 3-month program. It's been very successful. That's an opportunity. They can check that out, parisischool.com, check out mentorship. We also have the Fascia Training Academy, which has some good information on that as well. And then we also oversee and run the Professional Football Strength and Conditioning Coaches Association, which is the PFSCCA.com, Professional Football Strength and Conditioning Coaches Association. And that has an abundance of education as well that we put out for the NFL strength coaches along with Gatorade and provide content. So, I've been fortunate enough to be in this for 30 years and have a great network and have collaborated with a lot of really smart people. We have some great people on our advisory board, some top, PhDs like Dr. Stuart McGill, who's a spine specialist, and, Ken Clark, who's a PhD in biomechanics, specifically for speed. So Ken, funny story, Ken's a PhD, got his PhD at SMU, one of the top human locomotion laboratories in the world. Ken actually, as a high school athlete, came to the Parisi Speed School back in 1998. So now he's a PhD with his focus on motor learning for speed and teaches at Westchester University. We've done some research together and we're in collaboration. He's on my board of advisors. So it's just been a great ride. And also, just different people that have gone through our system that, I kind of maybe turned on to this industry that have gone on to do great things. And what's great, I collaborate with all of them. So the network, I'm about empowering coaches, empowering people to help them take this industry to the next level. And that's exactly what we have, right? You and I, we collaborate, we help each other, we share best practices. And ultimately, what do we want to do? We want to help the patient. We want to help the athlete get better and do what? Reach their potential as a person, as an athlete. Now, if we help them do that as an athlete, it's going to help them do it as a person, because, you got those athletic challenges just going through sports. You have losses, you have injuries, and helping them overcome that is what it's all about.
Well, Bill, you're simply an amazing human being. Every time I talk to you, I get enlightened, and I appreciate your time. And I keep up the great work.
Yep.
And thank you so much for being part of this interview.
Thank you, my friend. Appreciate being here.
All right. God bless.
Yep. You too.
Take care.